Yumi had been waiting for the day she could find a donor for the corner of her eye. But when the time finally came, Takashi Watanabe struck her to the ground. He pointed at her face and shouted, "Didn't you say you'd buy me a gemstone knot? Why are you pointing at my eye? People like you deserve punishment in the next life." From that day, Takashi humiliated and hurt her in every way possible, once even leaving her kneeling in the snow for 3 whole days, never looking back. What Yumi didn't know was that Takashi was dying from liver cancer. Before his death, he donated the corner of his eye to her. 4 years after Takashi passed away, Yumi returned from overseas. The first thing she did was begin her revenge. In front of a shabby old bungalow, she stepped out of a luxury car dressed in fine, noble clothing. Her cold gaze fell on the frail, elderly woman at the door. "Where is Takashi Watanabe? Tell him to come out." At the mention of his name, Yumi's eyes glimmered with hatred. The old woman stiffened. Sadness flickered across her already awkward expression. "Yumi, Takashi is already dead." Many would have expected Yumi to show sadness, or at least surprise. Instead, she only sneered. She thought this unfaithful man had regretted abandoning her, and now pretended to be dead just to avoid facing her. She clapped her hands. Instantly, a group of men in black entered the yard, each carrying a box. They opened them in unison, revealing stacks of bright red banknotes. Tens of millions of yen. Neighbors gathered to watch, whispering. Takashi despised her for being blind, for not bringing a dowry, one murmured. Now she's come back to show him she could have given more than he ever imagined. Yumi lifted her chin, her voice sharp as she looked at the old woman. "Tell Takashi to kneel and beg me. Then maybe I'll forgive what he did." Her threat was clear. Then she turned to face the elders watching nearby. "Everyone, please witness this." Yumi's voice rang out. "Takashi Watanabe wasted my youth, bullied me, and insulted me. It should be understandable that I take revenge." The neighbors began to murmur among themselves. How could someone who always looked so gentle do such a thing? "I haven't seen that boy in 4 years. Maybe he snared some rich woman and has been living well ever since." Their family was always so honest, but they could still do something this shameful. The cruel whispers reached Takashi's mother. Her sunken eyes seemed to sink even further. When Takashi died, his family hadn't even held a funeral. There was still debt from the cost of his treatments. Most people never knew he had passed away. But what hurt Takashi the most was knowing that Yumi now carried deep hatred toward him. And yet, he could understand. He would rather have the woman he loved hate him than leave her burdened with sorrow forever. It had been obvious once, Yumi had loved him deeply. Even as gossip swirled, she didn't act further that day. She simply left, satisfied. Takashi was relieved. If she had gone further into the house, she would have seen the small memorial tablet his mother had set up for him. His mother was still trembling from the confrontation. After everyone left, she collapsed onto the ground, muttering, "Son, was it worth it for such a woman?" Takashi's thoughts drifted back. Yumi had not been born blind. She'd lost her sight in an accident as a child. Her family favored sons over daughters and never sought proper treatment. She grew up in darkness. They met in her small flower shop. Takashi had gone there to buy flowers for his mother on Mother's Day. Among the blossoms, he saw her pure, gentle face framed by petals, and it was love at first sight. He had thought, how sad. Such a beautiful girl cannot see the truth of the world. When pursuing her, he hadn't needed much effort. Perhaps too little. She gave her heart easily, and yet he never neglected her. They redeemed each other. Takashi found a sense of home in Yumi. Yumi found a quiet sadness in him she had never known before. Then, 4 years ago, everything changed. A sudden diagnosis. Late-stage liver cancer. Terrified she wouldn't be able to bear it, Takashi ended things with a cruel excuse. It had been snowing heavily that day. Yumi stood across from him, lips trembling, snow piling on her head, her nose red from the cold. "So, you don't want me either?" she asked. The words pierced his heart like a knife. He clenched the warm talisman in his pocket and forced his voice steady. "You can't even give me a dowry worth tens of thousands. Why would I need you?" He didn't dare meet her eyes again. If he did, he'd break. He turned and walked away without looking back, but he couldn't stay away. He followed her in secret that night. She stumbled several times along a short road that should have taken 10 minutes, turning it into an hour-long walk. Each fall made his chest ache. He hated himself for hiding the truth, but he couldn't chain her to a lifetime of grief. Now, seeing her return in triumph, Takashi felt both joy and sorrow. His spirit followed as she visited the second place on her return, the flower shop she once owned. The chime on the door rang softly. A young clerk, warm and friendly, greeted her. The girl reminded Takashi of Yumi's younger self, pure and innocent. This shop had been their shared world, holding all of Takashi's happiest memories. Yumi looked around slowly. The corners of her eyes were red. "Miss, do you need anything?" the clerk asked. Yumi gathered herself, bought a bouquet of lilies, and turned to leave. But at the door, her expression hardened. She looked back at the clerk. "No matter the cost, buy this place. then tear it down. Her calm tone chilled Takashi to the bone. A week later, Yumi returned in person to watch bulldozers level the shop. Takashi stood at the doorway, arms outstretched, screaming, "No, please don't." But his voice faded into nothing. They couldn't see or hear him. Once, she had fought for this place with her life. When thugs came demanding protection money, she had stood in the doorway, blind eyes fierce. They punched and kicked her until she could barely move, but she refused to back down. That night, Takashi had tended her wounds, scolding her through tears. "Why are you so stubborn? We could always start over somewhere else." "No," she'd said. "This is where we met. Every flower here, you arranged for me. I can't give it up." She had protected it with everything she had, and now she destroyed it with her own hands. Takashi looked back one last time. The place he had visited again and again was now only a ruin. He collapsed to the ground. Yumi stared coldly toward the remains of the flower shop. "I will never allow my shame to linger in time," she said, her voice hard and unforgiving. In Yumi's heart, the time they had spent together had become a shame. Her reflection appeared in the dust, her eyes cold as ice. A man stepped out of a sleek car and draped his coat over Yumi's shoulders with practiced care. The man's gaze was indifferent, but his presence was striking, a perfect match for Yumi's sharp elegance. "Let's go back," the man said. "There's dust everywhere here. It's filthy. Just a shabby old flower shop. Why did you insist on coming here?" Takashi recognized him immediately. This was Ryo Kurosawa, a well-known rich heir and notorious playboy in the area. He had also chased Yumi before, but when he learned she was blind, he had fled in panic. How had Yumi ended up with him? It seemed she relied on Ryo now. Takashi's heart twisted in horror. Even in death, he worried Yumi might be deceived by such a man. He hurried to follow them. Inside the car, Yumi rested her head softly on Ryo's shoulder, her expression weary. "Thankfully you're here. Otherwise, I'd never see the light of day again in this life," she whispered. Her words hit Takashi like a thunderclap. His ears rang. Ryo smiled and stroked her hair. "Silly girl, because I love you, I'm not a ghost. I'll never leave when you need me the most." But then a crack appeared on Yumi's once calm face. How could she compare to you? The disdain in Yumi's eyes toward Takashi was unmistakable. Takashi bowed his head in sorrow. "That's not true. He was the one who had donated his corneas to her. How could anyone else take credit?" His fists clenched tightly, his shoulders trembling with emotion. Ryo chuckled. "All right, we're getting married soon. You have to be beautiful." Yumi nestled her head against Ryo's arm again. Takashi's mind went blank. Yumi was marrying this liar? He felt suffocated and stared at her in disbelief, then noticed the diamond ring sparkling on her finger. A sharp pain spread through his limbs. If only he had known the corneas he gave her would be claimed by another, he wouldn't have died in silence. But it was too late. Yumi gazed absent-mindedly out the window, clutching her phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. On the screen was the last message Takashi had sent her. "I'm sorry, I wish you happiness." Those were his final words, sent with his last breath when he donated his corneas. At the time, he meant them sincerely. He had been with Yumi for so long, time seemed to blur after death. "Have you not found me yet?" In an office, Yumi sat impatiently, glaring at her assistant. "Mr. Lee, we've searched for a week. No sign of the undead." The assistant hung his head. "Trash. They're all trash," Yumi spat. "Is it really so hard to find him? I don't believe he disappeared. Keep looking. Even if he's dead, dig him up." She threw the papers aside, eyes bloodshot and fierce. "If you want to find me, you'll have to dig me out of my grave, right?" Takashi thought Yumi's persistence was strange. She was living well now. Just then, the assistant was about to leave but was called back. "There's no trace of the undead. Let's go to her house and put some pressure on her." Yumi's eyes gleamed with a haze of determination. Takashi's heart sank. He had underestimated her speed. When he arrived, the house was smashed to pieces. His elderly mother knelt on the floor, trembling. A thug held a baseball bat to her forehead. "Where's your son, old woman? If you don't tell me, I'll make you beg for mercy." Seeing the destruction and his mother's desperate pleas tore Takashi's heart apart. His mother stood and quietly pulled out Takashi's memorial tablet, tossing it in front of the thug. "My son died 4 years ago. You might as well ask your master who gave her the corneas. My son apologized to everyone except her. Yumi." Her voice was hoarse and trembling, tears streaming down her face. The thug hesitated, exchanged looks with his men, then finally took the tablet and left. Takashi looked down at his mother collapsed on the floor, blaming himself. If only he hadn't been, maybe she wouldn't suffer so much. While the thugs took the tablet away, Yumi was trying on a wedding dress. Ryo hid by the store's door, phone pressed to his ear, whispering, "Baby, don't cause trouble. I'll come be with you tonight. Be good." "Oh, I was just playing. That woman spent so much on me. I'll make her pay." "Okay, I love you the most." Ryo hurriedly ended the call just as Yumi stepped out of the fitting room. Takashi gritted his teeth, furious. That beast. He knew Ryo never truly loved Yumi, otherwise why would he run away when he learned the truth? Yumi looked stunning in the wedding dress. Takashi froze in place. Thinking of Yumi marrying Ryo, that deceitful man, filled his heart with unbearable pain. Mr. Lee, Takashi Watanabe, is he really dead? The gang leader handed Yumi Takashi's memorial tablet.